Today I'm going to read a book called Magic Treehouse Dinosaurs Before Dark. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Into the Woods. Help, a monster, said Annie. Yeah, sure, said Jack. A real monster in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania. Run, Jack, said Annie. She ran up the road. Oh, brother, thought Jack. This was what she got for spending time with 7-year-old sister. Annie loved pretend stuff, but Jack was 8.5. He liked real things. Watch out, Jack. The monster is coming, said Annie. Jack didn't say anything. Come on, Jack. I'll race you, said Annie. No thanks, said Jack. Annie ran alone in the woods. Jack looked at the sky. The sun was about to set. Come on, Jack. It's time to go home, yelled. Come on, Annie. It's time to go home, yelled Jack. But Annie didn't answer. Jack waited. Annie, he called again. Jack. Annie shouted, come here. Jack groaned. This better be good, he said. Jack left the road and headed into the woods. The trees were lit with the golden late afternoon light. Over here, called Annie. Annie was standing under a tall oak tree. Look, she said. She pointed at a rope ladder. It was hanging down from high in the tree. Wow, Jack whispered. At the top of the tree was a treehouse, tucked between two branches. This must be the highest treehouse in the world, said Annie. But who built it? Asked Jack. I've never seen it before. I don't know, but I'm going up, said Annie. No, we don't know who it belongs to, said Jack. Just for a teeny minute, said Annie. She started up the ladder. Annie, come back, said Jack. But Annie kept climbing. She climbed all the way to the tallest branches. Jack sighed. Annie, it's almost dark. We have to go home. Annie disappeared inside the treehouse. Annie, Jack called. Jack waited for a moment. He was about to call again when Annie poked her head out of the treehouse window. Books! Annie shouted. It's filled with books, said Annie. Oh man, thought Jack. He loved a book. Jack pushed his glasses into place and gripped the sides of the rope ladder and started up. Chapter 2. The Monster. Jack crawled into the treehouse. Wow, he said. The treehouse was filled with books. Books were everywhere. Very old books with dusty covers and new books with shiny, bright colors. Look, said Annie. You can see far away. She was peering out of the treehouse window. Jack looked out of the treehouse window with her. Below were the tops of other trees. In the distance, he could see the Frog Creek Library and the elementary school and park. Annie pointed in the other direction. There's our house, she said. Annie was right. Jack could see their white wooden house with its green porch. In the yard next to was their neighbor's black dog, Henry. He looked very tiny. Hi, Henry, shouted Annie. Shh, we're not supposed to be up here, said Jack. Jack glanced around the treehouse again. He noticed that bookmarks were sticking out of many of these books. I wonder who owns all these books, he said. I like this one, said Annie. She picked up a book with the castle cover. Here's a book about Pennsylvania, said Jack. He turned to the page with a bookmark. Hey, here's a picture of Frog Creek, said Jack. It's a picture of these woods. Oh, here's a book for you, said Annie. She held out a book about dinosaurs. A blue silk bookmark was sticking out of it. Let me see, said Jack. He set his glasses down on the floor and grabbed the book from Annie. Okay, you look at that one, and I'll look up at the ones in the castles, said Annie. No, you better not, said Jack. We don't know who these belong to. But even as he said this, Jack was opening the dinosaur book to the place where the bookmark was. He couldn't help himself. Jack turned the picture of the ancient flying reptile. He recognized it as a pterodon. He touched the huge bat-like wings in the picture. Wow, whispered Jack. I wish we could go to the time of the pterodons. Jack studied the picture of the odd-looking creature soaring from the sky. Ah, screamed Jack. What? said Jack. A monster, Annie cried. She pointed out the treehouse window. Stop pretending, said Jack. No, really, said Annie. Jack looked out the window. A giant creature was gliding above the treetops, had a long, weird crest on the back of its head, a shiny beak, and huge bat-like wings. It was a real-life pterodon. The creature swooped through the sky. It looked like a glider plane. It was coming straight towards the treehouse. Get down, cried Annie. Jack and Annie crouched on the floor. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 3. Where is here? Jack opened his eyes. Sunlight slanted through the window. The treehouse was still high up in a tree, but it wasn't the same tree. Where are we? said Annie. She and Jack looked out the window, but the pterodon was soaring through the sky. The ground was covered in ferns and tall grass. There was a winding stream, a sloping hill, and volcanoes in the distance. I don't know where we are, said Jack. The pterodon glided down to the base of the tree and landed on the ground and stood very still. So what just happened to us, said Annie. Well, said Jack, I was looking at the pictures in the book, and you said, wow, I wish we could go to the time of the pterodons, said Annie. Yeah, then we saw a pterodon in the Frog Creek woods, said Jack. Yeah, and then the wind got loud, said Annie, and the tree started to spin. And we landed here, said Jack. And we landed here, said Annie. So that means, said Jack. So that means what? said Jack. I don't know, said Jack. He shook his head. None of this can be real. Annie looked out of the window again. But he's real, she said. He's very real. Jack looked out of the window with her again. The pterodon was gliding at the base of the tree like a guard. His giant wings were spread out on either side of him. Hi, Annie shouted. Shh, said Jack. We're not supposed to be here. But where is here? said Annie. I don't know, said Jack. Hi, who are you? Annie called to the pterodon. The creature just looked up at her. Are you nuts? He can't talk, said Jack. But maybe the book can tell us. Jack looked down at the book. He read the words under the picture. The flying reptile lived in the Cretaceous period. It vanished 67 million years ago with the dinosaurs. That's impossible, said Jack. We can't have gone to the time of 67 million years ago. Jack, said Annie. He's nice. Nice, said Annie. Yeah, I can tell, said Jack. Let's go down to him. Go down, said Jack. And he started down the rope ladder. Hey, come back, said Jack, but Annie kept going. Annie, wait, Jack called. Annie dropped to the floor. She stepped boldly to the ancient creature. So the picture looks like that. Chapter 4. Henry. Jack gasped as Annie reached out her hand toward the pterodon. Oh no, he thought. Annie was always trying to make friends with animals, but this was going too far. Don't get close to him, Annie, Jack shouted. Annie touched the pterodon's crest. She stroked his neck. She was talking to him. What in the world is she saying? Jack wondered. He took a deep breath. Okay, he will go down too. It would be good to examine a pterodon. He could take notes like a scientist. Jack started down the rope ladder. When he reached the ground, he was only a few feet away from the creature. The pterodon stared at Jack. His eyes were bright and alert. He's soft, Jack said Annie. He feels like Henry. Jack snorted. He's no dog, Annie. Feel him, Jack, said Annie. Jack didn't move. Don't think, Jack. Just do it, Annie said. Jack stepped forward. He reached out very cautiously. He brushed his hand down the creature's neck. Interesting, interesting, Jack thought. A thick layer of fuzz covered the pterodon's skin. Soft, huh, said Annie. Jack reached into his backpack and pulled out a pencil and a notebook. He wrote fuzzy skin. What are you doing, said Annie. Taking notes, said Jack. We probably the first person in the whole world to ever see a real-life pterodon. Jack looked at the pterodon again. The bony crest on top of the head was longer than Jack's arm. I wonder how smart he is, Jack said. Very smart, said Annie. Don't count on it, said Jack. His brain is probably no bigger than a bean. No, he's very smart. I can feel it, said Annie. I'm going to call him Henry. Jack wrote down in his notebook, small brain. Jack looked down at the creature again. Maybe he's a mutant. I don't know how to pronounce this word. This word, mutant. He's probably like a mutant, he said. The pterodon tilted his head, and he laughed. He's no mutant, Jack. Well, what in the world is he doing here then? Where is this place, said Jack. Annie leaned close to the pterodon. Do you know where we are, Henry? She asked softly. The creature fixed his eyes on Annie. Its large jaw was opening and closing like a giant pair of scissors. Are you trying to talk to me, Henry? Said Annie. Forget it, said Jack. He wrote in his notebook. Mouth like scissors. Did we come to a long time, Henry? Said Annie. Is this place from long ago? Suddenly Annie gasped. Jack! Jack looked up. Annie was pointing towards the hill. On top stood a huge dinosaur. And then the picture of the huge dinosaur looked like that. Chapter 5, Gold in the Grass. Go, go, said Jack. He threw his notebook into his pack. He pushed Annie towards the rope ladder. Bye, Henry, said Annie. Go, said Jack. He gave Annie another push. Quit it, she said. But she started up the ladder. Jack scrambled after her. Jack and Annie tumbled into the treehouse. They were panting as they looked out the window at the dinosaur. It was standing on the hilltop, eating flowers off a tree. Oh man, whispered Jack. We are in a long time ago. The dinosaur looked like a huge rhinoceros with 3 horns instead of 1. It had 2 long horns above its eyes, and another one grew out from its nose. It had a big shield-like thing between its head. Triceratops, said Jack. Does he eat people? Whispered Annie. Oh, no. Does he eat people? Whispered Annie. I'll look it up. Jack grabbed the dinosaur book. He flipped through the pages. There, he said. He pointing to a picture of a Triceratops. He read the caption. The Triceratops lived in the late Cretaceous period. The plant-eating dinosaur weighed about 12,000 pounds. Jack slammed the book shut. Just plants, no meat. Good, said Annie. Let's go see him close. Are you crazy? Said Jack. Don't you want to take notes about him? Said Annie. We're probably the first people in the world to ever see a real-life Triceratops. Jack sighed. Annie was right. Okay, let's go, he said. Jack shoved the dinosaur book in his pack. He slung the pack over his shoulder. Annie started down the rope ladder. Jack followed her. Just promise you won't pet him, said Jack as he called down to Annie. I promise, said Annie. Promise you won't kiss him, said Jack. I promise, said Annie. Promise you won't talk to him. I promise, said Annie. Promise you won't. Don't worry, said Annie. Jack and Annie stepped off a ladder. The pterodon gave a friendly look. Annie blew him a kiss. Be back soon, Henry, she called. Shh, said Jack, and he led the way slowly and carefully through the ferns. When Jack and Annie reached the bottom of the hill, they knelt behind a bush. Annie started to speak, but Jack quickly put his fingers to its lips. Then he and Annie peeked out at the Triceratops. The dinosaur was bigger than a truck. He was eating flowers off a mangola tree. Jack slipped his notebook out of his pack. He wrote, "Eat flowers," and he nudged him. Jack ignored her. He studied the Triceratops again. He wrote, "Eat slowly," and he nudged him harder. Jack looked up at her. Annie pointed to herself. She was walking her fingers through the air. She pointed to the dinosaur. She smiled. Like this. Is he teasing? Jack wondered, and he waved at Jack. Jack started to grab her. She laughed and jumped away. She fell in the grass in full view of the Triceratops. "Get back," whispered Jack. Too late. The big dinosaur had spotted Annie. He gazed down at her from a hilltop. Half of a magnolia tree was sticking out of his mouth. "Oops," said Annie. "Get back," Jack said again. "He looks nice," Annie said. "Nice. Watch out his horns, Annie," said Jack. The Triceratops gazed calmly down at Annie. Then he turned and looped around the other side of the hill. "Bye," said Annie. She turned to Jack. "See?" Jack grunted. But he wrote in his notebook, "Nice?" "Come on, let's look around some more," said Annie. As Jack started after her, he saw something glittering in the tall grass. Jack reached down and picked it up. It was a gold mandolin. So that's the picture. It's very detailed. A letter M was graved on the mandolin. Fancy M. "Oh man, someone was here before us," Jack said softly. Chapter 6, Dinosaur Valley. "Annie, look at this," Jack called. "Look what I found." Annie had gone up to the hilltop. She was picking up a flower from the mangola tree. "Annie, look, a mandolin," shouted Jack, but Annie wasn't paying attention to Jack. She was starting up at something on the other side of the hill. "Oh, wow," said Jack, clutching her mangola flower. She took off down the hill. "Annie, come back," Jack shouted, but Annie had disappeared. Uh-oh, what had happened to Annie? "Oh, brother," Jack muttered. He stuffed the gold mandolin in his jeans pocket. Then Jack heard Annie shriek. "Annie," he said. Jack heard another sound as well, a deep bellowing sound like a tuba. "Jack, come here, quick," Annie called. Jack raced up the hill. When he got to the top, he gasped. The valley was filled with nests big nests made out of mud. The nests were filled with tiny dinosaurs. Annie was crouching next to one of the nests. Towering over her was a giant duck-billed dinosaur. "Don't panic, don't move," said Jack. He stepped slowly down the hill toward Annie. The huge dinosaur was waving her arms and making her tuba sound.
From your calendar, math class starts in 1
Whoopsies. Anyway, Jack stopped. Are you serious right now? Okay, anyway. Jack stopped. He didn't want to get too close. He knelt on the ground. "Okay, move toward me." Slowly, he said. Annie started to stand up. "Don't stand, crawl," said Jack. Clutching her flower, Annie crawled toward Jack. Sitting below the duck-billed dinosaur followed her. Annie froze. "Keep going," Jack said. Annie started crawling again. Jack inched farther down the hill until he was just about an arm distance from Annie. He reached out his arm and grabbed her hand. He pulled Annie toward him. Stay down, said Annie. Stay down, said Jack. He crouched next to her. Bow your head. Pretend to chew. Chew, said Annie. Yes, said Jack. I read that's what you do if a mean dog comes to you. It's like this. She's no dog, Jack, said Annie. Just chew, said Jack. Jack and Annie both bowed their heads and pretended to chew. Soon the dinosaur grew quiet. Jack looked up. I don't think she's mad anymore, he said. Thanks. You have to use your brain, Annie, said Jack. You can't just go running to a nest of babies. There's always a mother nearby. Annie stood up. Annie, don't, said Jack. Too late. Annie held out her mangola flower to the dinosaur. I'm sorry I made you worry about your baby, she said. The dinosaur moved closer to Annie. She grabbed the flower from her hand and reached out for another. No more, said Annie. The dinosaur let a sad tuba sound. But there are more flowers up there, said Annie. She pointed to the top of the hill. I'll get you some. Annie hurried up the hill. The dinosaur waddled after her. Jack quickly looked at the dinosaur babies. Some of the babies some were crawling out of their nests. Why are there other mothers? Jack wondered. Jack took out the dinosaur book. He flipped through the pages. He found a picture of the duck-billed dinosaurs. He read the caption. The Antonuses lived in colonies, while a few mothers babysat their nests. Others looked for food. So there were probably more mothers close by looking for food. Hey, Jack, Annie called. Jack looked up. Annie was at the top of the hill feeding mangola flowers to the giant Antonosaurus. Guess what, said Annie. She's nice, too. Suddenly, the Antonus made her terrible tuba sound. Annie crouched down and started to chew. The dinosaur charged down the hill and seemed afraid of something. Jack pulled out the top of his pack. He hurried to Annie. I wonder why she ran away, said Jack. We were starting to be friends. Jack looked around. When he saw something in the distance, he almost made him faint. An enormous monster was coming toward the plane. This was hard work reading, so like and subscribe. The monster was walking on two strong legs. It was swinging a long, thick tail and dangling two tiny arms. It had a huge head, and its jaws were wide open. Even from far away, Jack could see its long, gleaming teeth. Tyrannosaurus Rex! Tyrannosaurus Rex, whispered Jack. Chapter 7. Ready, set, go. Run, Annie, run, cried Jack. Run to the top of the treehouse. Jack and Annie dashed down the hill together. They ran through the tall grass and scrambled up the rope ladder and tumbled to the treehouse. Annie leaped to the window. It's going away, she said, panting. Jack pushed his glasses into place. He looked at the window with Annie. The Tyrannosaurus Rex was wandering off, but the dinosaur stopped and turned around. Duck, said Jack. The two of them ducked their heads. After a long moment, they peeked out the window again. Coast clear, said Jack. Yes, whispered Annie. We have to get out of here, said Jack. You made a wish before, said Annie. Right, said Jack. He took a deep breath. I wish we could go back to Fall Creek. Nothing happened. I said I wish, started Jack. Wait, you were looking at the picture of the dinosaur book, remember? Oh no, I left my book at the back of the hill. I'll have to go back. Forget it, said Annie. I can't, said Jack. The book doesn't belong to us. Plus my notebook with all the notes in the pack and my... Okay, said Annie. I'll hurry, said Jack. He climbed quickly down the rope ladder and leaped to the ground. Jack raced past the pterodon, through the ferns, through the tall grass, and up the hill. He looked down. His pack was lying on the floor. On top of it was the dinosaur book. But now the valley below was filled with Antonuses. They're all standing guard around their nest. Where had they all been? Did fear of the Tyrannosaurus send them home, Jack took a deep breath. Ready, set, go, he thought. He charged down the hill. He ran to his backpack. He scooped it up. He grabbed his dinosaur book. Jack heard a terrible tuba sound. Then another and another. All the tortoises were blowing at him. Jack took off. He raced to the top of the hill. He started down the rope ladder. He stopped. The Tyrannosaurus Rex was back. It was standing between Jack and the treehouse. Chapter 8, A Giant Shadow. Oh my goodness, this is so scary, guys. Jack jumped behind the mangola tree. His heart was beating so fast he could hardly think. He peeked at the giant monster. Then the horrible-looking creature was opening and closing its huge jaw. His teeth were as big as steak knives. Don't panic, thought Jack. Think. He peered down at the valley. Good. The duck-bile dinosaurs were sticking close to the nest. Jack looked back at the Tyrannosaurus. Good. The monster didn't seem to know he was there. Don't panic. Think. Maybe there's information in the book. Jack opened the dinosaur book. He found the T-Rex. He read, Tyrannosaurus Rex was one of the largest meat-eating land animals of all time. If it was alive today, it could eat a human in one bite. Great, thought Jack. The book was no help at all. Jack tried to think clearly. He couldn't hide on the other side of the hill. The tortoises might stand by. He couldn't run to the treehouse. The Tyrannosaurus might run faster. Jack maybe he should wait for the monster to leave. Jack peeked around the tree. The Tyrannosaurus has wandered to the hill. Something caught Jack's eye, and he was climbing down the rope ladder. Is she nuts? What is she doing? Jack wondered. Jack watched Annie hop off the top of the hill. Annie hurried over to the pterodon. She was talking to him. She was flapping her arms. She pointed at Jack, at the sky, and at the treehouse. Is she nuts? Jack thought. Go, back up the tree. Jack whispered, go. Jack heard a roar. The Tyrannosaurus Rex was looking in his direction. Jack hit the ground. The Tyrannosaurus Rex was coming toward the hill. Jack felt the ground shaking. What should I do? Jack wondered. Should I run, crawl in the dinosaur valley, climb the mangola tree? Suddenly, a giant shadow covered Jack. He looked up. The pterodon was gliding overhead. The giant creature sailed toward the top of the hill. It was heading towards Jack. Chapter 9, The Amazing Ride. This is the last chapter. So guys, please like, subscribe, comment, share, follow, download, and yeah. Chapter 9, The Amazing Ride. The pterodon coasted down to the ground. He stared at Jack with his bright, alert eyes. What was Jack supposed to do? Climb on? But I'm too heavy, thought Jack. He looked at the Tyrannosaurus. It was starting up the hill. His giant teeth were flashing in the sunlight. Okay, thought Jack. Don't think. Just do it. Jack put his book in his pack. Then he climbed onto the pterodon's back. He held on tightly. The creature moved forward. He spread his wings and lifted off the ground. Jack nearly fell off as he teared the way and that. The pterodon steadied himself and rose into the sky. Jack looked down. The Tyrannosaurus was staring up at him, chomping the air. The pterodon glided away. He sailed over the hill and over the valley. He circled above the duck-bellied dinosaur and all the nests filled with babies. Then the pterodon soared out over the plain, over the triceratops who was grazing in the high sky. Jack felt like a bird. The wind was rushing through his hair. The air smelled sweet and fresh. Jack swooped up and laughed. He couldn't believe it. He was riding on the back of an ancient flying reptile. The pterodon sailed over the stream and over the ferns and bushes. Then he carried Jack to the base of the oak tree. The picture looks like that. That's intense. When they came to a stop, Jack slipped off the creature's back and landed on the ground. The pterodon took off again and glided into the sky. "Bye, Henry," called Jack. "Jack, are you okay?" And he shouted from the treehouse. Jack put his glasses into place. He kept staring at the pterodon. "Jack," Annie called. Jack looked up at Annie. He smiled. "Thanks for saving my life," he said. "That was really fun." Thank Henry, not me. Come on, climb up." Jack tried to stand. His legs were wobbly. He felt a bit dizzy. "Hurry," shouted Jack. "It's coming." Jack looked around. The Tyrannosaurus was heading straight towards him. Jack bolted to the ladder. He started climbing. "Hurry, hurry," screamed Annie. "Hurry, hurry," screamed Annie. "It's coming towards the tree," Annie cried. The dinosaur slammed against the oak tree. The treehouse shook like a leaf in the wind. Jack and Annie tumbled into the books. "Make a wish to go home," cried Annie. "We need the book, the Pennsylvania book," said Jack. Sorry. "Where is it?" They both searched madly around the treehouse. "Found it," said Jack. He grabbed the book and flipped through the pages. He found the photograph of the Frog Creek woods. Jack pointed to the picture in the book. "I wish we could go there," he shouted. The wind began to blow. Jack closed his eyes. He held on tightly to Annie. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 10, Home Before Dark. Jack heard a bird singing. He opened his eyes. He was still pointing at the picture of the Frog Creek woods. He peeked out of the treehouse window. Outside, he saw the exact same view as the picture in the book. "We're home, whispered Annie. The words glowed in a golden late afternoon light. The sun was about to set. No time had passed since they left Frog Creek. "Jack, Annie," a voice called from the distance. "That's Mom," said Annie. Jack saw their mom far away. She's standing in front of their house. She looked tiny. "Annie, Jack," she called. Jack stuck her head out of the window and shouted, "Coming!" Jack still felt dazed. He just stared at Annie. "What happened to us?" he said. We took a trip in the magic treehouse," said Annie simply. "But it was the same time as when we left," said Annie. Jack shrugged. "How did it take us so far away?" said Jack. "And long ago. You looked at a picture in a book and said you wish you could there," said Annie. "But the magic treehouse took us there." "But how?" said Jack. "And who built this magic treehouse? And who put all these books here? A magic person, I guess." "Oh, look, and I almost forgot about this." Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out the gold mandolin. "Someone lost this back there," he said, "in the dinosaur land. Look, there was an M on it." Annie's eyes got round. "You think M stands for a magic person?" she asked. "I don't know," said Jack. I just know someone went to that place before us." "Jack, Annie," their mom called again. "Coming!" Annie shouted again. Jack pulled the good gold mandolin back in his pocket. He pulled the dinosaur book out of his pack and put it with all the other books. Then he and Annie took one last look around the treehouse. "Goodbye, house," whispered Annie. "Goodbye, house," whispered Annie. Jack slung his backpack over his shoulders. Annie started down the rope ladder. Jack followed. Seconds later, they hopped onto the ground and started walking out of the woods. "No one was going to believe us," said Jack. "So let's not tell anyone," said Jack. "He'll say it was..." "Dad won't believe it," said Annie. "He'll say it was a dream," said Annie. "Mom won't believe it," said Jack. "She said it was probably just pretend." "My teacher won't believe it," said Jack. "She'll just say you're nuts," said Annie. "We'd better not tell anyone," said Jack. "I already said that," said Annie. Jack sighed. "I think I'm starting not to believe myself," he said. Then he left the woods and started up the road toward the house. As they walked past the house on their street, the trip to the dinosaur time did seem more and more like a dream. Only this world and this time seemed real. Jack reached into his pocket. He clasped the gold mandolin. He felt the engraving of the letter M. It made his finger tingle. Jack laughed. Suddenly he felt happy. He couldn't explain what happened today, but he knew for sure that their trip to the magic treehouse had been real, absolutely real. Tomorrow, Jack said softly, we'll go back into the woods. Of course, said Annie, and we'll climb up the treehouse, said Jack. Of course, said Annie. And we'll see what's happened next, said Jack. Of course, said Annie. Where's you? And they took off together, running home. The end. If you like that story, like and subscribe, etc.